the head of the Senate asked me to speak at a European American conference, and the district attorney Wolfson stood up and says, "Well, I only enforce if it's if they're underage girls and or if they're beating the girls." Well, that's nonsense. It's a law. Enforce it. It's like a police officer saying, "I don't want to bother this drunk. I got a parking ticket I'd rather deal with down here." So that's my answer is this. Either enforce your laws or bring it to the vote of the people and let them decide. And just so you know the history of it, in 1972, when they decided to legalize prostitution, the gaming cartel, who runs a lot of things here, as you know, decided we don't want it in Las Vegas and Reno because we're thinking family values and gambling and all that. Well, now, guess what? We're back to what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, except for the STDs that you take home. And it's a mess. It's a real mess, and it's one of the worst places in the United States, and it's got to be dealt with somehow.
Thank you very much, sir. In deference to the other candidates, if you'd like to comment, please do.
Well, I'll comment on, do you mind?
Go ahead, Dr. Bradley.
Over the years, I have treated numerous women in the sex industry. You have two sides to this. One, I am not the moral compass, nor do I wish to be. I want to be the voice of the people I represent. And if the majority of the people I represent are in favor of something, even my opinion is irrelevant at that point. No matter how loud anyone in this room shouts, and I won't yell, no one in Carson City will hear you. But you could whisper it in my ear, and I'll make sure that everyone in Carson City hears you. So personal versus professional. I'm going to say it from professional. Many women go through, and they've done it for various purposes. I know some that have put themselves through college. I know some that have achieved really good things as a result of having this money and available to them, and it permitted them time to achieve other goals. I've also seen the other side of that coin, which is ugly. And the other side of that coin are people that are feeling isolated, that have no support system, and they turn to what they believe is a support system, which then is very unhealthy, and then the draw of the quick money can quickly turn them into hiding from the emotions that they're feeling, and the best way to sedate those emotions is through alcohol and other drugs, which then can lead to other issues. So again, when you look at it, it's not a this or this. Once you decriminalize something, it becomes regulated, and with regulations, of course, it has better monitoring. So statistically, there is less sexual violence in areas where where you have legalized prostitution. However, we also see that when you mentioned sex trafficking, and I'm not insinuating this, they sometimes, women that would have been prey to that can end up in that industry. It has nothing to do with the people running the industry, it's the industry itself that may draw them. But that doesn't mean that there's not a lot of people involved in the sex industry that are just doing it for money so they can support their families and live healthy lives. I know several people that work for a couple of the gentlemen clubs here in town that are really, really bright, super sweet ladies, and unfortunately, at the point in their life, they had already missed a big opportunity to have education and support their kids, and because of numerous reasons, this was how they were able to support their kids. It's not up to me to judge anyone. It's not up to me to be the moral compass of anyone. If it comes up for a vote, people vote on it. If it's a matter of legislation, the majority of my constituents want it, then that's what I want. I'm here to represent, not to dictate.
Statutorily, there's population caps on prostitution and where it's located in the state of Nevada. They did that for a reason, specifically for a reason. And even though those population caps are in place, there are places that could qualify. I'll give Eureka, Nevada is a classic example, that do not have prostitution. They chose not to have it. They chose not to do that. Personally, I don't support prostitution, but it's legal business in these counties that meet the population caps. So as a legislator, it's my duty to work together with others to make sure that legislation is accurate and enforced. I don't think for 1 minute, and I'll just step out there and say it, I don't think for 1 minute this community wants brothels throughout their neighborhoods. I just don't think I don't think it's appropriate. You have children. We just had a conversation about children walking up and down the streets through your neighborhoods. We don't want those kinds of things, them exposed to those kinds of things. Sure, it's the oldest profession in the world and all those kind of things that go along with it. But we're different communities now. We're a different nation now. We're a different place now. Nevada is the only state in the nation that still has prostitution legal. The only state. How do you think other states look at us and think of us? Very frustrating. And it's at best something that I truly believe the next Nevada legislature is going to look at with very hard.
Anybody got anything else? Yes, sir.
How are you planning on your?
Can you, actually, if we're going to continue, then that way we can get it on the mic.
I can repeat it if you want. You'd rather have it on the mic.
Either way, we just want to make sure that,
I
because
was
we are
asking,
recording this.
what plans do you have and how successful do you think you'll be in repealing the commerce tax?
Oh, I think it's going to get repealed. It has to. It's not only, look, we put it to the vote. They called it a margins tax. 80% of all of us said no way. All they did is take the same thing, paint it a different color, add some benefit for the kids, because it's hard to say no to the kids. Well, I've been hearing that for 42 years since I got here. When I got here in 1976, they were saying we need money for the kids, and look at our education system. So it was just a sales pitch in my mind, and it's not good. It's not good, and it needs to go away. You all are paying for it. If you have an average income, it's costing you $600 or $700 a year. If you have a big income, it's costing you a couple $1,000s a year. So I think we'll be very successful with getting rid of it. I'm glad Adam Laxalt came out and said that he doesn't like it. Ron Connect is against it, and I think you can see a lot of people. I think the proof is in the pudding. 11 of the 13 people that voted for this tax are gone. There's a couple left, Mr. Oscarson, and also Roberson, who's running for lieutenant governor. And it's a bad deal. It's got to go away. And let me get a hold of a budget. It's time businessmen. Haven't we proved it with Donald Trump that businessmen can run things? Let me get a hold of that budget. You know, I signed the tax pledge. Grover Norquist is a personal friend, Ronald Reagan's guy, Americans for Tax Reform, just came out and supported me, to Pahrump, in fact. So I signed the tax pledge. That means I'm not raising taxes. There's two ways to get money. You either raise taxes or you lower the expenses. And that's what my focus would be on, is let's lower these expenses and make everybody accountable for the money that we're spending. I think that's a better way.
So I'm going to go with that and say there is another option. And I agree with everything that has to do with the raising of taxes. I think the raising of taxes is a first go-to myopic view of how to deal with problems. And being in Las Vegas, it's the adage of don't chase your bad money with your good money. Don't just keep throwing money at it hoping eventually it'll get better. So I'm going to look at something from a completely different perspective. And that is, again, I mentioned I'm in the treatment arena. Let's look at other areas and how everything involves one another. We have 14,000 inmates. We have $18,000 spent per inmate. That's about $252,000 that's spent every single year in the state of Nevada. Of that, 60 to 90% are diagnosable with a treatment disorder. Of that, the alcohol and drug rate, recidivism, is 42%. With 90 days of treatment, which is what I do, we have a 15% recidivism rate. That's a 27% improvement. That equates in real money, $40.1 to $60.2 million savings per year. You know how we don't raise taxes? We quit wasting money. You know how we also do it? We keep families intact. If you're the main breadwinner in a family that's going to jail, now you don't go to jail. Now we save on entitlements. Now we save money in so many areas while keeping people together, not wasting money. And you know, I'm a former police officer. I didn't mention that. I was Law Enforcement of the Year in 1989. And I'm all about tough on crime, but even more so, I'm about being smart on crime. When you have something that is in the DSM-5, it's a diagnosable illness. If we have someone incarcerated for a diagnosable illness, nonviolent, don't we have an obligation to treat them? You know, you make an alcoholic who drinks and drive not drink and drive, treat their alcoholism.
Mr. Oscarson, did you want to add on to that?
I think how you keep an alcoholic from driving is you take the keys away and don't allow him to drive. That's what I think you do. Now, it's interesting in many instances, Attorney General Laxalt has talked about the commerce tax and what he'll do. He has never said he'll repeal it. Yet, his running mate, Michael Roberson, was one of the architects of the commerce tax. And he supports Michael Roberson in his role as running for the lieutenant governor. Those are all very interesting things. What we need to remember, and you need to keep in perspective, is that whoever's elected to this position, currently it's me, is one vote. Working together with your constituents, working together with your colleagues is how you get things done. One person doesn't make a decision up there. It's a cooperative of people that work together to make sure things happen in the best interest of the constituents that they represent. I believe I've continued to do that and will continue to do that, and appreciate the opportunity to do that.
But I have to disagree. Taking the keys away just means they now drive without a license, or they drive another vehicle. That is not the answer. You do not stop gun violence by taking firearms away from lawful ownership of firearms, because then only criminals have them. You treat the problem at its core. Now, I'm only basing this on seeing 300 to 400 addicts every single month for the past 20 years.
Dr. Bradley, we're going to go ahead and because, like I said, I know it's so hard, but we really don't want a debate. We really want people to be able to ask a question and have you all answer it. And I know it's so difficult to do, but that's how we have set this up. So we all very much appreciate everything you've said. If we do have more questions, I know people got shy. We thought we were done, and now we do. If you'd like to come up, or I can repeat the question.
I've got a very loud mouth, you won't need it.
Well, we're recording, so that's why I have to go through the mics.
Just as I walked in, I heard Mr. Hoff say that cutting taxes are not doing it. You're a business owner as I am. And I'm not, plain and simple, the reality of it is there is other ways of raising funds for our state. And as you know, as an employer, you pay your percentage of taxes on your employees, as does the employee. As their wages go up and as jobs increase, that's where the state revenue comes from. And as there's a demand for employment within our state, that's where we get broad-based taxes. Don't you feel by bringing more business to the state, we'll have a demand for higher paying jobs, which in turn will create the revenue for that?
You're absolutely right. USA Today did an article recently that talks about Nye County. Now, you're right next to Nye County. And they said in the last 5 years, population growth has gone backwards 1.9%. Poverty rate is 17%. The unemployment rate is nearly 50% higher than the rest of the country. And it's a wonderful area. And it's pro-business. So why isn't this happening? Somebody's got to get out there and beat the drum and let them know that Nevada's a good place. But when they start having these monster tax increases that just came down, the $1.4 billion commerce tax, it scares people. But yes, we need growth. We need controlled growth. One of the issues in the Nye County part of the district is water. And it's a big issue, and it's a big mess. And Mark Twain said it best: whiskey's for drinking, water's for fighting. Well, they're fighting, and it's a big fight. So you're absolutely correct. We have to have more business. Now, why don't businesses come to Nevada? I remember when Harry Reid stood up in front of the legislature a few years ago, and he says it's time for a new Nevada. We got to get rid of the brothels and talk about get rid of the red lights. Well, the Northern Nevada Development Association, when we went to them afterwards and said, why don't people come to Nevada? Brothels were number 17th on the list. You know what was number 1? Gaming. And then it came down to infrastructure and an educated workforce. It's disgusting that we are nearly on the bottom of education in America with all the money we pay. So somebody's got to get in there, and I think it's going to take business people to look at this educational system and say, wait a minute, we want some results. And I don't have the answers because I'm not in there, but once I get elected, I'm going to start looking for them, and hopefully I'll get other people to work with me on it, but there's got to be an answer. We can't spend all this money and stay on the bottom of the educational curve in America. That's what's going to bring business. And maybe it's not college education. Maybe it's trade schools where somebody can go out and earn $30 an hour on a machine and in 3 years make $60 an hour. Maybe that's the answer. I don't know. But I know that it's not working. And I got here in 1976, and it hasn't been working. So the educational system needs a reform, or somebody at least take a hard look at it. And I think that's where businessmen will be of value in the legislature.
How many constituents were affected by the commerce tax?
So the question was, how many constituents were affected by the commerce tax?
How were the constituents, the voters? Okay, there's a long list, but I just named one with Jim Marsh. Jim Marsh said that's $120,000 a year. Tom Saida, the car dealer pardon me?
In your area, in your district, how many people were affected?
How many people?
Everybody. Everybody's affected by it. When you look at your cell phone bill, it just, when you get your license plates, there's additional charges. I wish I had the list in front of me because Ron Connect just sent it to me, but everybody's affected by it. And it costs the average person like $700 a year. It was just an average income. But it's something that everybody has to pass on. And it doesn't sound like much. A bag of potato chips in the convenience store I just sold goes up a couple pennies. It's a couple pennies here, a couple pennies there, but before you know it, you got $1.4 billion.
Mr. Oscarson?
Sir.
Can you answer that question? Because I think you were there when I was there. Can you reply to that question for me as far as the effect?
I have, thank you for the question. I think that in many instances, you talk to people in any given place in the state, you ask them what the commerce tax is, and they say, what's that? How does it affect you? Did you not go on vacation? Did you not buy a new car? Did you not help your kids out in college? Did you not buy a new home? Look, bottom line is, we can talk this gloom and doom all day long, but Nevada is the 5th best state in the country to do business in. The 5th best state in the country to do business in. That's after the commerce tax was enacted. It doesn't sound to me like businesses flocked out of here. It doesn't sound to me like businesses were afraid to come here. In fact, we've attracted more businesses because there's a stable environment and they know we're working our education difficulties. Again, as I said in my opening remarks, fiduciarily, the legislature cannot be responsible for what the school districts do with their money. Statutorily, we give them a set amount of money. They're supposed to manage their budgets just like you and you and you and everybody else in this room have to do. And it's their responsibility to do that. There's no doubt in my mind, and I have fought and on record in multiple instances, that the Clark County School District is a waster of funds. Their higher upper echelon superintendent, assistant superintendent, district superintendent, director superintendent, superintendent of this, superintendent of that, and their palatial building over there on Sahara with marble floors and all those kind of things is an atrocity to what education should be. So, to answer the question, I have seen no facts that show it costs anybody any additional.
The reason why I asked that question, I'm sorry for both of you, is my understanding the commerce tax was based on a $4 million income, which I don't think that, and that's why I'm wondering is how it would have affected me in any heavy way. And so I appreciate the comment.
Well, the $4 million is accumulative. So if a person owns a lot of different businesses, small businesses, in fact, that was mine. I have businesses that don't gross that much, but when you add them all together, they do, especially my gas station, because I sell $500,000 a year, a month in gas, in fuel. But it affects all of us.
But the question, it was just the clarification of that, is that this gentleman understood that the taxes be affected by people who made $4 million or more. Is that correct? Businesses, yes. Okay, thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Any other questions at this time? Yes, ma'am.
I'm a parent up here, and with the last legislative session, we saw a lot of bills that came through that were of a social nature. So I would like to know how you would be voting on certain bills that may affect the family that have to do with parental notification on abortion or any of the, especially in your industry, the comprehensive sex education that was introduced last and was actually vetoed by Governor Sandoval, stating that it was an infringement upon parental rights. How are you going to vote in those kinds of committees?
And just for clarification, are you asking Mr. Hoff or all of, just Mr. Hoff? Okay,
Well,
thank you.
there's,
Okay,
there's a
thank you.
lot of questions there, and so like you have to take them one at a time. But of course, we have to be concerned about family. That's the backbone of our state, is having a good family and the values that go with that. So I need to see them one at a time and be able to review them before I could really answer that. I think Mr. Oscarson would probably be better at that. He's been there and dealt with all these things.
And he voted in favor of the family unit and in favor of parental rights every time. So.
No, it's good.
Though, my question is, with your industry, how does it affect those decisions when it comes down to a committee floor and we're talking about comprehensive sex education within the school where it teaches, I hate to say in front of the kids, but masturbation at the kindergarten level and introductory education throughout in regards to sexual education. This is going to come back up again, and so we want to know how you're going to vote for us on the floor on those kinds of things.
I'm going to vote the way you want me to. I'm going to reach out to the constituency and find out, get an email list, and be able to answer questions, and you tell me how you feel about it. I mean, I don't know all the answers because I haven't been there. But once I get there and start dealing with them, I'm going to reach out, and we're going to have town halls like this. And I'm going to have an email list, and hopefully everybody's on it. What's your opinion? What direction should we go to? I'm also going to go to the Republican Party and say, what's your thoughts on this? And to the Republican Party here and also in Nye County, what's your thought on this? What direction should we go? I'm going to need help on that.
Well, I can tell you that your office will be bombarded within minutes of hearing that a BDR or a bill goes out, anything with that title on it. So I would hope that you would listen to constituents. I just wonder if that's something that's a conflict within yourself or your industry.
No, my industry has nothing to do with this. I'm a very conservative guy in a business that it's just another business to me. It's no different than my gas stations and other businesses. Once you get past what the product is, it's just another business. And if it wasn't legal, I wouldn't be doing it. And of course, I'm going to listen to the voters, because that's the people that are going to put me there, and that's what they expect from me, a guy that will listen to them and go act upon what they want me to do.
Well, can I comment on that? I don't think this is a tough question. I mean, I think it's pretty simple. Parents have more responsibility, less rights right now. That's ridiculous. We need to empower parents. Not notifying parents, I think that's ridiculous. As long as you have responsibility for that child, then you have the right to make decisions over that child. My kids are here. Ask them how much privacy they have in my home, okay? They don't. I want to know what's going on in my home, and as long as I'm responsible, I make those decisions. I am completely and totally against anything that, with one exception, if we've identified an abusive home where it puts the child at risk. That's now a law enforcement matter, no longer just a social matter. So I want to separate those two. Parental rights first. Period. Done. I don't believe in anything other than that. We need to empower parents. I want to take that a step further. We're seeing this with kids right now becoming more entitled, worrying less about the result of their actions, not worrying about anything. Police come and they laugh. It's absolute silliness. And God forbid that as a parent you do anything to punish them, because if you get two kids come together and say you did something wrong, you're defending yourself. You're not allowed to parent anymore. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's not the school jobs to decide how to parent. It's not your job to tell me how to parent. It's not my job to tell you. It's our job as parents to do that. Absolute notification to parents until you are of age or you've been declared an adult, emancipated by a court, until it is legally done. Up to that point, there's no issue. There's nothing to discuss.
It's a big deal here, so we hope that if you were elected, then any of you would really hold up to that. And I know a huge group of parents.
Ask my kids at the break.
Jenna, may I respond?
Absolutely, yes, she did say
So-
to any candidate.
Ma'am, just so you know, I know what your wishes are. I know what families' wishes are in the community. That's why I have consistently, since 2015, 2012, and the last session, voted to make sure parents' rights are kept intact. That's how simple it is. I know, I talk to the parents. I have parents in my office every day in Carson City when I'm during session, and I talk to parents throughout the year. I'm engaged with the school districts and with the parents in those school districts and the other parental groups that we're involved with. They don't want their parental rights taken away. They want to be notified. They want to have the opportunity to parent. It's our job to allow that to happen. It's our job to make sure that those rights aren't taken away. And it's the legislature's job when these onerous bills come forward to try and strip away those rights, to make sure that they're not stripped away.
And there's a lot of scary, I'm sorry.
That's what I've done consistently since I've been elected.
And he has, and I do appreciate his vote.
And there's a lot of scary bills and things we're hearing that are coming up, and we need to have people right now. I don't even want to get into the whole thing about biology is something that you believe it to be. I can tell you that biology is very specific to male versus female at many different levels, even insofar as, and if it wasn't, we wouldn't have women's marches, because if we're all the same, right? Or we wouldn't have gender discussions if we're all the same. We're not all the same. We are different, and we have biological differences that I would be happy to go through the neurobiology of the physiology, but I won't bother anyone in here with it.
Well,
So,
I know we're okay with that. Do we have any additional questions? Yes, sir.
I don't mean to comment, but if you said something that bothers me tremendously, that you would have town halls and vote as we would want to. Sessions 4 once long, wouldn't you intend to have a town hall in the middle of a session to make a decision on your vote? So what I'm asking is, that's something you should know right now before you ever go up there, and to tell me you're going to have a town hall and meet and make a decision with everyone else.
Well, I'm going to reach out to the voters is what I'm going to do.
You won't have a chance to, that's my point. I've never once, and I have reached out to the assembly, I have reached out to the senators, I've reached out to Lieutenant Governor and the governor on issues during session. It doesn't happen. So it worries me that you made that statement that that's how you're going to approach it, because it tells me you haven't made a decision. First thing as a parent.
Sure.
Okay? If I want to parallel that to my next statement of how do I, as a religious person, support somebody in the industry that you're in that completely conflicts my life? How can I look at you and say I can elect somebody like this who allows this to happen?
Allows what to happen? What, my business?
Yes, sir.
Well, I didn't invent it, and I didn't vote it in. It's a business, and all it is another small business to me. So you don't know what my religious beliefs are, and I keep them to myself. And I try to keep, as a businessman all my life, I've tried to keep politics and religion out of everything. So I think that once you get to know me a little bit better, you'll find out that I'm a reasonable guy, and I'm very conservative.
I'll talk to y'all. But
No, I'd look forward to it, but there's got to be some kind of communication mechanism for me to communicate with you and everybody else when I get up there. I understand logistics. I also understand we can fly back and forth. Maybe it's by email. I don't know how to do it. I haven't been there, but I'm sure when I get there, I'll figure it out, because I'm going to want to communicate with everybody. I'm a great communicator, and I answer my phone.
Are there any other questions? For reals this time, you guys? Because last time I said no, and then we stopped recording, and then people started asking questions again, and then we had to start it. And so, is everybody good? As I said previously, if you weren't here during that time, we are going to definitely open up. We're going to turn the mics off. We're going to really stop recording this time, and then give you all the opportunity to meet with the candidates individually, unless there's another question. Going once, going twice? Oh, look at that. Look at you guys. It's like the Price is Right over here. Okay, how about you, sir?
I've attended public school since 4th grade, and I'm concerned that you said you were in favor of the commerce tax because we need that $4 billion and we need to pour a lot of it into school. But then you just mentioned they're building palatial palaces. Why are we pouring money, or why do you want to pour more money into a failed system when you know it's failed, you've just admitted it, why are we basing a commerce tax on something that you even openly admitted in front of
He
all of
directed
us
Ms.
that
Rasmussen.
is not working? And I would like, and then I'm also concerned that you kind of fluffed it off, that you're saying that the commerce tax hasn't affected anyone in here, but surely the people that have $4 million businesses are not paying that for the rest of us. They're going to pass it on in everything that we buy and everything that we do. And I think that was kind of, I don't mean to be rude, but it seemed a flippant remark, and those are my concerns. That I would like to know, all of you, if we have that money pouring into a school system that is not working, and we're 49th with these billions going in, what's the answer?
Well, maybe, let me
that?
respond, because maybe I didn't make it clear. Yeah, I don't like, the palatial palaces were built before I was there. Now, to continue to support them, to continue to support the hierarchy of the Clark County School District in particular, who just thinks that money grows on trees, is a travesty, quite honestly. Statutorily, we're required to provide a certain amount of money to the school districts to educate the children. Fiduciarily, it's their responsibility to put a budget together that works for the students and for the kids that they're trying to educate. I don't have control over their budget. I have control over making sure that we do the best job we can. They came to us and said, we need money for Read by 3. We need money for English language learners. We need money for social workers in school. God knows we need social workers in school, don't we? Look at some of the terrible, terrible tragedies that are happening in the schools today. So the social workers are a voice for the children, are a voice for the kids to go to and talk to. Or sometimes they may not have that resource at home. So when I say yes, and I don't think I fluffed anything off, so I'll take exception to that in some way. But I think that the problem is we are at a crossroads with education in the state of Nevada. And truly, the people who are responsible for those budgets at the district levels need to get off the bubble and make sure that the kids are getting the education that they deserve. Statutorily, I can only give them X amount of dollars. I can only give them so many dollars to do things. They have to manage those funds. And as an educator, I know that, I think you said you were an educator. You face that every day, I'm sure.
I didn't mean, I said I was educated since 4th grade. I'm not an educator. I've been to public school here.
Okay. I'm gonna, this is my turn? If you're keeping track, I've offered 3 specific solutions. I'm gonna offer now a 4th. As a state legislator, we can pass laws and mandate that boards do certain things. Let's address education right here, right now. And what Mr. Oscarson said is true. We need people to offer and afford help to our students, but we don't want to raise taxes to do that. We don't want more debacle and more bureaucracy. So my first bill proposal, I've already begun the draft because I plan on winning, is that we make every single school in the state of Nevada a practicum site for master's level therapists. Now I think about this because it's what I do, and so I have a fresh set of eyes looking at this, and I'm going to just kind of play it out for you. 1, on-site supervisor. We already have therapists at the school, counselors, so we already have a paid position. They can supervise 20 people, offering 25 hours of direct student contact. That's 500 hours per school, every school in the state of Nevada for free. Master's level therapy. Now we have IEPs. We have to pay for that. Well, now we have master's level therapist interns that need their hours. Practicum sites are hard to come by. That's something we don't have to pay for now. Wow, we just got more money, didn't raise taxes. Now we're meeting more needs. What about kids that are being bullied? What about kids that are in an awkward developmental stage? What about kids that are coming from abusive households? We identify that now. What about kids that turn to violence? We identify that now. All the problems that are going on, we identify at the core before it becomes an issue. And if I didn't state it already, it's free. And we'll have a line of people wanting to do it because master's level therapists are in line wanting practicum sites. And when I've reached out to the different boards, because I know, therapist boards, alcohol and drug boards, I mean, there would literally be lines and lines and lines of master's level therapists dying to sign up for this program. Imagine 500 direct contact free hours of therapists to each school in every school in our state. Imagine how adjunctively that would help our teachers. Then when we have Common Core, kids fall behind, they don't get helped. We have therapists to help them catch up. Kids need to excel, they don't get to excel because everyone has to stay the same. Now they get to excel because we have master's level professionals that can help them excel. Give that time to resonate and you'll see it is a really, really good idea that will immediately help the state and make our education system far greater than it is right now. I bet you every state will want to emulate it immediately after we do it.
Well, if this is a management problem, then we at the state level need to help Clark County and maybe Washoe County, if they're having the same problem, see what's going on here. And all of us as voters need to shine the flashlight on these folks and say, look, you're spending lots of money and you're not getting any results. You got to give us some results here, or we got to change something. It can't keep going on like this. It's embarrassing for a state. Imagine you being the economic development person down here, and you're trying to entice people to come to our lovely area, and you tell them all the reasons to come here, and they say, well, what about the educational system? What do you tell them? So there's got to be an answer, and I go back to, we need business people to be looking at this. And I don't know what I could do on the state level, but I'll darn sure do something. And if not, I'll be right there with you guys, shining the flashlight on them, saying, we want results. You got the money, we want results.
Thank you. All right, for reals now, guys, we have enough time for one more question, because we do want to give everyone the opportunity to have some time to meet with the candidates individually if they choose to. So
your hand went up when his does.
Yeah.
I thought you had to.
Well,
thank you for coming.
I think I probably should ask on the side, because it really does go back. I'll say it. You had said you're a very religious person, but you don't mix the two. But for me, adultery or sexual promiscuity in the Bible is not acceptable. How do you reconcile your religious beliefs to be able to count yourself to do? Like I said, I would rather talk to you, but I just have a hard time. I'm a business owner myself, but I would not, in my religious beliefs, go into a business that spiritually or religiously completely contradicts what I believe in the will of God. You've done that, which tells me either that your respect for God or your religion doesn't play a role in it because it's about money.
Well, it does.
That's the way I look at it.
It's a long subject, and I'd love to talk to you one-on-one on it. I'd love to do it, but again, it's just a business, and if you didn't have it legal, you'd have it like Las Vegas. You've got the problem. The rest of the rural counties has got the answer. You just don't see the problem because it's not in your neighborhood. It's there, believe me.
So let me take the question directed to, I'm sorry.
Dr. Bradley, Joseph Bradley.
You're a therapist, you deal with this.
Yes.
His occupation, how much does that affect the overall family, affect our society or community from that standpoint?
Well, that's a difficult question to answer quickly. And I mentioned earlier, I think before you got here, I've seen both sides of it. I've seen people that have used it to make money quickly to actually better themselves. And it's not my job to judge. That's God's job. That's not my job. But I've also seen where people that have no support systems turn to it, and they feel so many voids within themselves that they have to counter those voids and horrible feelings that they're so uncomfortable, often with alcohol and drugs. And then that's where I see them. And I've seen many women come from the sex industry that, like confidentiality, obviously, but one person, they just numb out on opiates so they get through it, just so they don't even think about it.
Do you support the industry?
Do I support
The industry.
the sex industry?
Do you think it's good for our state? That's a yes or no.
It's not yes or no. I support any lawful industry. I am a capitalist If the people deem that they do not want this industry, then it should be deemed illegal. At present, it's not. So as long as it's lawful, I support the lawful practice of business. But I don't, in Clark County, it's against the law. So I absolutely do not support the act of any prostitution but I don't support marijuana usage either, but the people voted for it to be
So you actually
decriminalized.
back on marijuana. Do you support the prostitution industry?
Do I, under the present law in Nye County, yes, until it's made illegal. Until it's illegal.
Mr. Oscarson, and then you can, if you have anything more to add to that, and then we will be adjourning this portion of the meeting.
No, I don't think so. I think that, I answered that question earlier when it was asked. And look, it is legal in counties with certain population caps. I'm not a supporter, I'm not a fan, but it's legal. My job as a legislator is to uphold the law.
All right, thank you, gentlemen, very much.
Thank you.
We greatly appreciate your time for coming down here today, to visiting us. And for reals, guys, we're turning the mics off now, okay? Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
No, that was when you should leave them on.